Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another webinar of ELTA. It's a small crowd today. I don't know, we are practically giving away money and nobody showed up, but okay, it's probably today quality over quantity. Again, I welcome everyone to the second installment of our funding for legal tech or for innovation webinar series of ELTA. Before we start, remark, we were recording that, so if you don't want to end up on YouTube, then it's the best time to leave, but don't leave. It will be very interesting because our guest today, the topic of our webinar is a very specific one. So we basically invited only companies from Germany, where everyone, of course, is welcome to join. Or to watch it after the webinar on our YouTube channel. It's about an instrument called Forschungszulage. So that's already an interesting word. It's free money from the German government. And believe me, they don't hand it out very often. We have two experts today with us, Gavin Wall and Andrew Cuthbert from a company that's probably named after a Marvel superhero, The Change. I'm dying to listen to the background story how two guys from Belfast were desperate enough to dive into a German public funding regulation and so on, because that's probably nothing you do on your free will. So without further ado, Gavin, Andrew, take it away, please.
Thank you very much, Holger, for that's the most interesting introduction I've certainly had for a webinar. So I don't know how I quite follow that. But we are the Change Innovation Services, and we are based in Belfast. Myself and Andrew are co-CEOs of the Change. And interestingly, particularly when we first connected, myself and yourself, Holger, my background is actually I was a lawyer for 15 years. So I do understand all of the participants that are here, the viewers. I was 15 years as a lawyer. So we're a very interesting mix at the Change. Andrew, my co-CEO, is a technologist. So we actually have the lawyer on the one hand and the technologist on the other. And some people might say those two are an unusual mix, but the thing is that this is a really important drive in the law, legal technology, and certainly today, I hope and believe that we are able to outline a really interesting opportunity for all of the people in the ELTA and your participants on the webinar today, whereby they can actually unlock some of the technology that they want to do to advance their businesses going forward. Is there anything you want to say, Andrew, just from the top?
No, Gavin, we should take it away, should we? And
yeah,
sure, well, no. Yeah, they'll hear plenty from me in due course.
They'll hear plenty from Andrew in due course. And I will say, Holger, the original connection with Germany, we've done this, as I just go into the first slide there. Innovation is really an international concept. It is not just confined to Germany or the UK or Singapore or anywhere else. It's actually an international concept. And we have experience of applying, the German version is Forschungszulage and or R&D tax credits, but basically where innovation meets funding. That's what we're really talking about here today, where innovation meets funding. And are there ways to unlock funding that is non-debt, non-dilutive, and provided by, as you say, the German government on this particular occasion. So from the 1st of January 2020, Germany was one of the last countries not to have a Forschungszulage type of system, whereby governments understand that if you invest €1 or $1 or £1 into an innovative company, you're likely to get €3 or $3 or £3 in return on gross domestic product. And that's what's behind the thinking of this type of scheme. And what we do in the Change is that we try to help companies, or we do help companies, unlock and plan innovation. So we help them plan innovation to unlock the funding that is available. through some of these schemes internationally. And in Germany, the German scheme, there is up to 1 million euro per year available for innovative work. It's a really good scheme. Now, we should say at this stage is that we are an innovation-led company. We're not accountants. We have an accountancy team in the change, but we're innovation specialists. And the reason why we think that approach is so important is because whenever you plan your innovation, whenever you think strategically about your innovation, whenever you map it out how you're going to deliver it in the future, it actually brings a greater focus, and a greater percentage of your team's work is targeted towards delivering innovation. So if you only think about what did we do last year? So what did we do last year? Oh, we did that project. Let's go and see if we can claim some money on it. That's not our approach. Our approach is, what is your innovation strategy? What is your plan? And Andrew heads that part of the business. Certainly, we've experienced across 10 countries, and we've experienced in just about every industry you can think of. Circular economy is very hot right now for innovation funding. Finance is really, particularly for the circular economy. Software and legal tech is another one, which is a real opportunity for innovation funding at the current time. So as I said, research and development is common across OECD countries, and Germany introduced the Forschungszulage, or the research allowance as it is in English, in January 2020. And our job really as the change is to carry out an innovation strategy with our clients so that we create a 5-year plan of what innovation looks like over a 5-year period. Now, because the legislation was introduced on the 1st of January 2020, really there's about 1.5 years looking back for an existing business, and then about 3 years going forward. And we have had success through the actual scheme. We've actually carried clients now through the entire scheme in Germany, and we can unlock up to 1 million per year for them. I should say, you're probably at this stage, Holger, the participants are asking, well, how much does it cost? What's the risk involved? And the great news is that there is no risk. I know it's hard to believe. We are that confident in our delivery of a successful outcome that we do this work on success fee only. And then we charge a percentage of the successful outcome if we are successful. But we're so confident in our own delivery, and we've done it across 10 countries, that we're prepared to do that and take our fee at the end. Andrew, if I want to hand over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. So as Gavin's mentioning, I mean, this is something that we work on, I'm going to say, day in, day out, and it's been across a whole suite of countries, really. Germany is one of the most innovative countries in the world. I mean, if we look at the World Intellectual Property Organization, 2019, Germany was ranked number 9. Now, depending upon where you go, as an example, Bloomberg will rank Germany as number 1. So it's quite interesting that when we look at German innovation and try to understand what's really happening on the ground, and there's so much going on. Each city is very, very different. This is for each area as to what is actually happening. But at the end of the day, there's stuff on an ongoing basis from companies like those here tonight. The opportunity, though, around innovation is something that has been defined in terms of of tax credits, as Gavin's mentioned. So there are elements to these things that have been structured. You can look at your company, you can look at where you want to be in the future, and you start to understand whether or not this will fit for you. Because yeah, we can work through some examples. So Gavin, I think probably next slide I'll kind of use the, yeah. So first and foremost, there are 4 concepts in innovation using this particular way of looking at it. And there are many, many different ways of approaching innovation. So first and foremost, we have what we term an architectural innovation. So can imagine someone wondering, what might that look like? Well, an architectural innovation is where an organization uses an existing technology that has already been developed for something else in a new field, in a new way, in a new context. So one example I could bring here would be something that was a dictation software, something that potentially was specific for the legal market, at a real genuine value there, but was something that was already in existence elsewhere and needed tweaked and honed and perfected for a company in the legal market. Then we look at, I'm going to use the most basic form of innovation, incremental innovation. So this is where we do something that's done in a certain way. Let's say there is a wheel, the wheel has already been invented, and we're going to try and improve that, make it work better, make it work faster, make it work in a different way. And I would normally find in most areas, most industries, this is the most common form of innovation. There'll be lots of incremental innovations happening across the business in lots of different ways, and they'll work in these in different, I suppose, contexts. So that would be, as an example, if I take that architectural example, making something work better, making dictation work more specifically, maybe picking up on legal vocabulary and understanding that better and more in a more wholesome way. If I move on to disruptive innovation, what we're talking about here is bringing what is essentially a new technology, something that's not found before, into an existing market. So here we would have, let's say, a new way of printing. So the laser printer, before we had sort of bubble jets and all sorts of approaches and dot matrix in advance of that. So that would be an example where we've brought a new technology into place, and we have a new way of delivering value to what is an existing market. It has certain qualities, certain changes that have occurred that allow us to do new things. And lastly, we have a radical innovation. Now, these are the ideas that are the unusual ones. These are new technologies coming in to create new markets that really change the way everything works. We probably look at things like AI in that way today. We look at ideas that are very disruptive across the entire kind of gambit of industry and what's going on. The iPad is one I like to use. But in this case, I'm actually going to go way back to kind of 1450 and use Gutenberg's printing press, which is kind of our next slide. The reason I find that as such a, well, I think it's very obvious why that was such a disruptive and radical change. We were scribing documents. It basically prevented us sharing knowledge in the way that we can today share it today's world via the internet, but then via individual handcrafted documents, notebooks, and all sorts of. So that was obviously a very obvious radical innovation. For us, the radical innovations of today are still to come. These are the ideas that are in the people's minds in this room that necessarily they haven't yet executed, and yet they want to change things in a very massive way, potentially creating brand new markets.
And I should say, Andrew, it's our job is actually to look after that element for it for the companies. So
Yes.
the companies don't have to determine that stuff themselves. That's our knowledge, and we can work out which element of it applies to each particular company.
Exactly, Gavin. And I mean, the sort of areas that are, I'm going to say, opportunity for today. I mean, we're in a world where, a post-COVID world, where this has changed. I imagine the legal industry in Germany as it has here in Ireland and the UK. We actually work in legal tech ourselves. We have a product, so we can kind of at least in some way understand, I'm going to say, the pains of the situation, but also the opportunities. Really, today we have remote working. We definitely in Ireland had or have individuals carrying out consultations over things like Zoom. We have a need for technology. I mean, people have required technology to continue to work at all in a real sense, and therefore that has brought about new opportunities. And really, we've also got this new opportunity to look at a world market. What are the major legal tech problems of today's world? Are they even new ways of interacting with clients? are these new ways of identifying case law and looking into documentation and understanding it in a new way. Is this a way of actually completing documentation in a way that can reduce the input of a human being and allow them to work more around the specialist areas that they know that they can bring genuine expertise to by carrying out the simple everyday tasks. So I imagine, again, there's lots of opportunities here that companies will have, and we'll get to talk.
Yes, and Andrew, probably another good point, I know I made it at the top, but is that Forschungszulage is available in Germany. And if there are other participants or watchers on the YouTube channel that Holger identified in other jurisdictions, we can look at those also, because we have expertise across multi-jurisdictional, and the opportunity is there across most jurisdictions.
Exactly, Gavin. I mean, the range of countries we've worked in, it's actually 13 countries so far. So we have a wide knowledge, and that's across from the Americas to Asia. So the truth is we've worked in a wide variety of markets. And really, the truth is you realize the differences and the nuances, how each market applies legislation. A company that has a base in Germany may have a base in Russia, may have a base in other countries, and there's ways of identifying benefit for virtually every company. It's just the size of that opportunity and how it works. Probably, although I'm on this slide, and I mean, the German legal tech market is growing. We're looking at by 2025 hitting the billion, which is a substantial opportunity, but no doubt will increase much more rapidly given the opportunity put in front of us by COVID. I think the sort of underlying truth of how innovation works here is something that a lot of companies may or may not know. You may have applied for a grant in the past. You may have, whether that be a regional grant, whether that be a European grant, whether that be a national grant, you may have found that, yes, there's a lot of paperwork. This is an intense process where you have a lot of documentation to write. Really lovely thing about R&D tax credits in this case, you're not beholden to the legislation of a particular grant call. You don't have to relocate your business. You don't have to put a certain amount of people in a certain place. You essentially have the opportunity to begin a project from fresh and really design that to suit your own needs, your own ambitions as a company. And that's a lovely thing I feel about R&D tax credits. There is no need for a pre-assurance. You do not need to, I'm going to say, you don't need to meet requirements outside of what we call the Frascati guidelines. And I think that's in a later slide, is it, Gavin?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's fine. Yeah.
In fact, just while you're on that point, Andrew, it's also worthwhile to note that if there are any participants here today who are based in Germany and have staff in such as software developers in another EEA country, so those staff can be included also in the provision for Forschungszulage, their salaries.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean that's a huge opportunity. I mean, so at the moment, I'm going to say most people look at innovation as a big mess of ideas almost. We go through a startup process, particularly in startup. I'm going to say the most innovative area, scale up, going all the way up to corporates. We look at innovation as a way of conceptualizing new ways of doing things. And therefore, by the very nature, we assume that it has to be unplanned, unstructured, and not necessarily well organized. Obviously not the case. And I'm sure a lot of people here, given it's a legal tech and I imagine mainly software focus, that the truth is that innovation should be planned, should be structured, and should be designed. And that's where we come in, really, helping support companies to design innovation strategies. Now, these are long-term documents which are here to challenge you as either founder, project lead, whatever that role is that you have, to think big, to think about where could your idea really go. We do that over a series of sessions, really a series of videos like this, and we then work with you to hone that idea into something that will meet Frascati, in this case in Germany, and the various legislations that we work with in other countries. And through doing that, you can have a plan that you can, I'm going to say, take to the bank in a sort of virtual sense. You're able to say, well, I can guarantee from this final plan that I will receive up to 25% funding for this project from year 1 through to year 5. And we can actually, I used the word pre-assurance in a different context. Here we can pre-assure you of that. So we can guarantee, really, through working with the Finansamt, the outcome for your project when it comes to supportive funding over 5 years, which is a massive amount of value, and also helps you think big, helps you realize what it is your idea is going to do in the world.
I saw Holger smile there when you said you can take this to the bank. Holger definitely, there was a wee smile there. I saw the dimples.
And it is really true. I mean, for anyone like ourselves, Gavin, involved in venture capital or other areas, I mean, you know that someone has this in place. The lovely thing, this is really quite specific to the German legislation. We have a separate, what we call a science test, which is where we prove this idea to be meeting the requirements of Frascati, which is a guideline of 400 odd pages. And separately, we get that document, we get a certificate which can go with our tax returns, whether that be in cash, as in that if you are not yet profitable, you're pre-profit, you may have, we always get asked questions around debts and things and other requirements of a company. Those are not considered here. This is really just about this innovation plan that you have put together with us. And separately, then you may also, if you're profitable, look at taking this off your tax, and we can help you to manage that and work with your Steuerberater in that regard. So
yes, so
we're all about the innovation, as Gavin's previously mentioned.
Yeah, so basically, the German government brought in the Forschungszulage from the 1st of January 2020 as a response, and there was a maximum of 500,000 euro per year per company at that time. As a response to COVID, it was increased to 1 million per year from the 1st of July 2020. And it has been increased to 1 million, up to 1 million per company from the 1st of July for 5 years. So it is a massive, massive opportunity for a company, any company that's getting serious about building legal tech, about planning their future innovation. As soon as you do that, and if you do it with the change, certainly we can then unlock this type of funding. You may have the question, what is the amount of money based on? It's based upon it might just be, it'll be referred to in another slide, but it's useful time to bring it up now. For every pound or euro you spend on innovative work on human capital, so for your staff costs, outsource costs, for human capital, you get 25% rebated back to you. So if you spent $1 million on innovation, you would get 250,000 back the following year. But we can guarantee that in advance when we do our innovation strategy or innovation plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as Gavin's mentioned, and just to kind of reiterate exactly kind of what it is we help you do. So we take that big mess of ideas. You may or may not have structure. You may as yet have not proven any form of hypothesis, or actually you may be at the other end of that where you have a product, it still needs work, it's still not where you want it to be, and we're going to help you again innovate further. Look at that incremental step that comes at the other end of the whole process. So we're here to help you structure this, and that's our core goal. We also challenge you. I mean, really, it is about thinking big. I mean, how does the Finansamt get maximum value out of this? Well, through companies in Germany carrying out maximum innovation in a structured way that is repeatable, that has the right qualities to it, and is in the right areas. So therefore, we want to work to challenge you properly and appropriately to make sure you are in the right project. It's not, Gavin's on these interviews with me often, and I mean, it is a challenging interview. It's to make sure that we understand both your idea, but also can make sure that we can challenge you on what it is going to try and achieve. because it may or may not be achievable, and we may or may not have evidence from other projects, from the public domain, from otherwise that may help you again refine and improve your ideas. So that's a big part of our proposition.
Yeah. There's benchmarking, Andrew, there,
Yes.
sort of nationally and internationally, which is part of the function that we provide as well.
And actually, Gavin, one of the big things I find people find a lot of value in, there's actually also psychometric approaches. As we go through the Frascati element, you probably realize not every person in the team is capable of every type of innovation. They fit in a certain area of it. And therefore, we can help you again understand who you have, who you might need, which is also important. So going on to Frascati, Gavin, I suppose we've talked about it a couple of times. It's the Frascati manual is really an absolutely critical document, and for me, it gives us, in terms of R&D tax credits, a much clearer pathway than is maybe available when it comes to grants and such. I just feel very, very privileged to have a document like this. So it was written really to enable the OECD countries to figure out how to structure innovation. Now, this was written by a guy called Christopher Freeman, and that document has since evolved up to the 2015 version, but this was written originally in Frascati just outside Rome, so that's why it's called the Frascati manual. Now, Christopher Freeman, funny story if you're based in the UK, I'm going to say, reputedly had an affair with the Queen Mum, actually. That would be what his claim to fame is.
Holger smiling again.
But on the flip side, absolutely, if you read any of Christopher Freeman's works, I mean, in economics, it's just very, very interesting, and it was the background to this work. So what do we have? We have 5 concepts. We have the concept of novelty. Now, that is the think big element. This is the presence of something that you're going to create a project that's never been done before, that is truly novel. Now, your project may or may not be truly novel at the point we first meet you, but we're looking to help you expand your horizons, think 5 years into the future. What is it that's unique about you, about your project, no matter how niche or how large? We want to try and find out that true novelty. So that's the first premise. An idea must be novel. The next element are the creative steps that get you there. So what elements of a project you have to build? How do you approach the problems? Those are the creative steps. Think of them like projects, really, the way you traditionally see if you ran a project over 3 or 6 months, whether that be agile or a waterfall method or whatever way you carry out your processes. Really, the creative steps are the key outcomes that are required to achieve the novel goal. So if we look at novelty over 5 years, our creative steps are the next time segment down. They're kind of looking at sub a year normally to kind of complete a creative step, or at least create what you first thought should be the creative step before you change it. Because inevitably innovation is uncertain. The only thing we can't really control, but also the thing we must identify the presence of when we look to build out an idea. So creativity comes in a series of forms. That can be in I'm going to say the areas of the humanities, so social sciences, and also technology. Frascati covers both. So when you need to make sure your idea is appropriate for a particular market, and you need to build additional elements to it, change its usability for a particular market segment. Let's say our product's actually a will creation product, or it's involved in the wills industry, so generally used by older people. So we need to make sure it's accessible to those people. We need to make sure that the user experience is correct for that particular demographic. The humanities come into that decision, as well as the technologies that we use. So obviously they're very important to have both. Then we look at systematization. So systematization is what you would expect. That's your Gantt charts. That's your how many days you're going to run on the project. That's all the kind of smart objectives you're going to set in your project. And those are, again, absolutely critical to identifying innovation. You can see now already where the novel people, the guys come up with a 5-year vision, probably are different than those who like to systematize and turn an idea into a practical component. So yeah, it takes all sorts to innovate. We do it together. It's not a one-person show. So and there's many examples where that's the case. So so again, in terms of the last element, we have in Frascati terms transferability, repeatability. For anyone who's a software person, see this as optimization. If you're going to increase conversion rates to sign up from 15% to 37%, and that's your goal, the truth is that that's what we're talking about here when it comes to software. On the other hand, it's also about sharing process. If you are a software development company, maybe using particular languages, how do you transfer knowledge between team members? Those are innovative processes as well. So again, we can talk about individual situations for people, but that's Frascati in a nutshell.
And interesting, Andrew, this is an interesting aside, is that Christopher Freeman, who's an Englishman, came up with Frascati, and the one region or country that doesn't apply Frascati is, of course, the UK. So we're back into Brexit and EU and all of that type of thing. Just very interestingly, it's the one country that actually doesn't apply Frascati.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
To export something like this and not use it is unusual.
It's unusual. So up to, just as a recap, the benefits, and I say, Andrew, there's a lot of technical stuff there that you've heard from Andrew, and it's because we're so passionate about it, and we know that it drives a better and greater outcome, both on your innovation and on your funding. That's why we're so passionate about the innovation. So there's up to 1 million per year for 5 years. It's non-debt and non-dilutive. It's for your staff or contractors anywhere in the EEA countries. If you're UK, it's anywhere in the world, but in Germany, it's anywhere in the EEA. That's 26 countries currently now that the UK has left. And it really empowers you to think bigger and to think differently and to be bolder. If you know that if you spend an extra 100,000 on your tech, you'll get 25,000 additional back the following year. It just gives you that extra little bit that you need just to drive forwards. That's absolutely fantastic scheme.
Definitely. Yeah.
So the steps that are involved for any client or company coming to us, we start with an initial consultation just to identify the innovation, identify the scope of the opportunity. Andrew would be on that technical review. Then we have an NDA and an agreement that you would enter with ourselves. Then we get into the fun part. As Andrew mentioned, I would be in some of these consultations with them, and he sort of, I always say, stretching the synapses a little bit just in relation to innovation and drawing out all of the secret sauce of your particular project that you have and trying to identify it. We then apply to the German, we do a number of those sessions sort of over an 8-week period. That's normally about a 2-month period that we spend with you, maybe an hour a week. And during that period of time, we also do an accountancy piece as well, where we look at the spend on human capital. We have that all done in 8 weeks. We then submit that to the German government, the assessment, and they have a 3-month time window to respond, either positively or negatively or somewhere in between, but 3 months. And our latest one there actually passed with flying colors in 2 months. So we've had great success already in Germany, and we actually have almost 30 clients in Germany already across all different sectors, and certainly we'd like you to join with us to supercharge your innovations. So that's the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the innovation side of it. I hope you enjoyed the taking the money to the bank bit that Holger definitely enjoyed. Where can you get hold of us? I know there's a question and answer session coming up now. Where can you get hold of us? info@thechange.vc, or look for myself and GAVAN Wall on LinkedIn, or Andrew's on LinkedIn also, or Gavin.
Reach out to Holger and Julia.
Yeah, or reach out to Holger and Julia. It'd be great. So you can, anyway, we're everywhere. And if you want to hear a wee bit about our own legal tech that we're working on, it's really interesting. You can certainly reach out to us about that as well. So thank you very much, Holger and Julia, and we're happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Thank you, Gavin, Andrew. Very, very interesting. We had some questions, partly. The first one is probably already answered. How much money do I have to bring in to get a Forschungszulage at least? So that's you get 25% on.
Yes, there's no minimum, Holger. There's no minimum, and it's 25% of whatever your spend is on. And it's our job to identify the project and get as much of that spend included in the project as possible.
Okay.
As long as
there was a follow-up question by Christian. So maybe Christian, you can also unmute your microphone if you want to ask it directly.
Oh, great.
Otherwise, I will just read it out aloud.
Yes, I can, of course, talk to you as well, Julia. Yeah, my question, hi to everybody. Thanks for sharing all this information for us at first. And at second, I'm asking myself, if you are a relatively small company, is there maybe another project where we can get the 5 million from first to get the 1 million Forschungszulage as well?
Well, Christian, probably there are obviously grants and such now that they are applied differently, but we can definitely support on areas like that as part of the innovation strategy. And also, obviously, there's capital from various sources, and we'll both help connect and just help people put their best foot forward when it comes to what really their vision is about when it comes to their company. So yeah, we can help in those areas. There are definitely other sources. And normally what we find is that, let's say by the sound of it, Christian, is it a startup in your case, or where are you at with?
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle of a startup and a very long project.
We understand. We understand. Christian.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Christian could probably give you maybe more direct answer then.
Yes, actually, I'm running rechtsanwalt.com for 23 years now. Rechtsanwalt is the German word for lawyer. So I help people to find the right lawyer and to find the best matching legal advice over our website. And now, because the word is German, Rechtsanwalt, I want to internationalize it with an international domain that works in every country. And I want to go to every country in every language of the country and offer legal advice directly. And I want to use artificial intelligence to find out what kind of questions the users have and even give answers out of the system right away, automatically, but as well offer real legal advice by lawyers, maybe online, maybe per hotline, or even in the city where the user lives in. So it's a big project, and I want to go international with it, and I can't finance it on my own.
Okay, Christian.
Christian, give us get in touch, Christian. I would say on that one. One Andrew would probably say to you as well, in relation to Forschungszulage, for instance, as a tool whenever you are raising funding from VCs, for instance, say you were trying to raise €1 million from a VC, if you've already passed Forschungszulage, you're able to say, I'm through Forschungszulage, I have my certificate here. If I'm spending on an innovative project, which has already been assessed, I will get an extra 25%. That is quite attractive to a VC. That's quite attractive to a VC if they know you have 25% extra runway. So you mightn't be able to unlock it beforehand, but you can help unlock the investment.
Okay, as I understood, you both have connections to VCs, maybe as well.
Yes, yeah. We definitely get in touch, Christian, and we can definitely have a conversation on that. Certainly.
Okay,
thank you very much. Definitely,
from you. Definitely, Christian. I mean, just one thing on it, Christian. I mean, there are other countries as well. So if you are looking to go international, it's not. I mean, I'm going to say there isn't only this type of R&D legislation in Germany. As Gavin's mentioned, I mean, it's really quite global. So depending upon what markets you're looking to hit, There are ways of appropriating that, even including German costs as an example, if you have to go into other markets, which is going to be quite interesting, I imagine. So yeah, no, we can help with all of that.
Yeah. No, thank you, Christian.
That's great, Andrew. Thank you, Gavin.
Hi, Julia.
And is there a cap on total what the German government is ready to invest with? Because if there's
$3.5 billion, $3.5 billion,
Okay.
or I think
Okay.
that was even for the first year,
Yeah.
Holger.
Yeah, okay.
So we've a long way to go.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Looks
we
like that.
haven't reached it
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. And you do some pre-screening, as I understand it. So somebody comes up with an idea, comes to you, and you say, okay, guys, that's really not innovative. It's not gonna fly with the German government.
We are working for free unless we're successful. So whilst we love innovation, we want to take on the ideas that are innovative, based on Frascati. And Andrew, I sometimes joke, Andrew's bedtime reading is the Frascati manual, all 400 pages of it. He loves this stuff, so there's no person with better insight into innovation than Andrew.
That's
so
great.
if anybody comes to us, we'll be able to help them with that.
Yeah.
But Holger, what I would say is that I mean I find your idea doesn't jump out of your head and normally meet all the criteria. So you tend to find it's a journey. So it's not that we go,
It is, yeah.
Your idea doesn't hit straight away, so we don't want to work together.
So you can steer people in the right direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
And is there a minimum site you have to be on the market for, say, 2 years, 5 years, or you just came up with a brilliant idea yesterday?
Holger,
Sorry?
The honest truth is pretty much, Holger, which is what makes it so interesting. The German legislation is unusual in that it has some information on people wanting just to start businesses who are not GmbH or AG or have not registered it, or you have not registered at all their idea as a business. There is still the ability as a German taxpayer to apply to the scheme as an individual. Okay. So if you just get out of bed one morning and you do have an idea, you can basically talk to us, and in theory we can help you qualify your concept so that you can receive some funding. In that case, it's a very interesting model where people, as you can imagine, if they're in that position, they may not have the money to pay themselves in that situation, but the actual the Finanzamt will give some money. It's actually capped at 80,000 for a pre-registered business per individual working, but that means you get 20,000 euro in a payment. Now it does have to become your full-time job, so it would be someone going, leave my job, I'm going to go and work in this idea. So that's an important caveat, but yeah, it's very interesting that that's not available in other countries, to be honest. So it's a great little incentive to get people innovating and coming up with new ideas, particularly during COVID. I mean, yeah.
That sounds very good. So, folks, any more questions? Doesn't look like. Then again, thank you very much, and you know how to reach the guys, and I guess there will be some more interesting information if you just reach out and present your ideas or your projects. So I get the idea that that's something everybody should look definitely into, because it's also almost a little bit too good to be true, but it is really exciting. Okay, then. Thank you very much, Gavin and Andrew, for your time and for your effort, and for those who listen today or will listen on YouTube. We will reach out with the next installment of our funding series. So have a nice evening, all.
Really
Bye-bye.
appreciate everyone.
Thank you very much.
Hope we didn't bore anyone. Appreciate it.